helping to support those students who have shown deficits in reading. That is a part of the state reading plan. That is a part of our annual goals and objectives as we try to move forward as a district. So the support for them primarily comes during the day, because the folks that we need working with the students on learning to read, we really need to be the certified teachers, highly trained, highly qualified, read to succeed, endorsed instructors that know how to take the information from watching a student read, and they know how to apply the right tools and the right resources and strategies to help. Working after school with a volunteer, although it is very helpful to have someone reading with the child to overcome those deficits that have not been able to be met during the regular school day, we do need that intensive intervention, and our schools are working to provide that during the day for K1 and 2. Yeah. But our after-school programs, some of the ones that are funded by Title I and by Office of School Transformation Funds, we're providing those supports. We're identifying those students. We're providing the transportation. It's just not 4 days a week or 5 days a week. It may be 2 or 3.
Okay. Well, and to just let me be clear, I don't believe that what we need is to make children do more instruction for a longer period in the day necessarily, because I think that the benefit for a quality after-school program is that they get positive social interaction. Yes. They get those skills to kind of build their emotional support and structure. They get physical activity. They get engagement if it's done properly. That's going to help them build, because to your point, if they're in K-5 in first grade, their issue isn't that they can read a paragraph and comprehend it. We're talking about something that's a lot different, which is why I'm so concerned about the students that we hold back in K-5 and first grade. So if we have a way to leverage what we're doing in these programs to ensure that if they are having to go home and sit in front of a TV or not having quality interaction time, if there's a way for us to serve them that would allow them to grow a little differently, emotionally, socially, that I think would just put us way ahead in helping them, to get that sort of quality interaction. So that was the thought. Thank you.
Is there any further? Mr. Sutton.
Do we have any discipline issues in these programs? No. Students.
No, minimal. Huh? Minimal. We've had minimal
Okay.
issues.
If we have a problem, does the director handle that or the principal?
The director handles that first and works with the teacher, the student, and the parent, and then if those continue, then the principal would get involved.
All right, so they go through the same chain of command
Yes,
as we
sir.
would in regular school?
Yes, sir.
From a principal to a assistant superintendent, et cetera?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shamley.
Yes, thank you. I have a few questions. Some of these already may have been answered in previous questions, and I just forgot them, but I'll go through a couple of them that I still haven't heard. From what I understand, it looks like the program is, if I'm correct, I don't know, completely self-funding if we have a gross that's way above the net. So that would seem to tell me that we may have some room to add some programs if we need to. Not sure that we need to, but it's possible. Also, I tend to think that the impetus for this in the beginning was to provide something along the lines of after-school care for parents that can't pick their kids up at that time. So I think for the price that we're charging, and it looks like we could maybe even reduce that a little bit, particularly for the free and reduced kids, that we're getting a pretty good service to the kids. Having said that, and I think I'm agreeing with Ms. Wells, I may be wrong, that it would be helpful to be, if we're not doing it, to have some coordination with the teacher in the class and the program after school, so that if we have kids that we're sending off to the summer reading program to help enhance their reading skills and so forth, that we can incorporate that into the time that we're using after school. Is that something that you emphasize or that you try to do, or is that just sort of a byproduct, or how does that work?
In some schools, that is happening. I was at East North Street the other day, and they talked about identifying the kids that were already in the after-school program, pulling those kids that needed the academic assistance. So there is coordination between as much as possible. I mean, there's a lot of programs in a school that you got to coordinate between intervention and all that, and so that gets difficult to manage a lot of times in there to a deep level. But yes, there is coordination between and a lot of times, in some cases, the school the same school staff are working in the after-school program, so they're very familiar with the needs of the kids.
And they're not necessarily lined up with their normal daytime teachers,
Not
but
necessarily.
that, again, is not a requirement, it wouldn't seem to me. I'm just curious.
They're oftentimes not lined up with
Right.
those same teachers, but when the students are reading throughout the year, every student in Greenville County has a Fountas and Pinnell reading level.
Right.
The students know those levels. We communicate those with after school. So when the students are in the media center or doing that self-selected reading, which literacy is a part of every program, they then know the level of books they need to select in order to get the most value in return from that.
Also, in most of our elementary schools, our schools are using an agenda or a daily, weekly folder that goes with the student, so that's a means of communication. And also the computer programs and technology they use in after school, they're right where they were when they left off in that classroom. So that's follow-up in what they're doing during the school day.
Thank you. Do we have any data on what kind of progress the kids are making? In other words, is the testing in their daytime class increasing as a result of some of the work we're doing, or do we have any correlation that we've been able to connect?
I mean, I would say, Mr. Chandler, we've not looked at the correlation because for a lot of these kids, there's so much going on during the day. It's hard to isolate and say because they have this time after school, that's why they're performing better in this area versus the intensive intervention they're getting during the day with the reading specialist or the literacy specialist. So that would be very difficult to pinpoint because for a lot of the kids, there's multiple strategies happening in a school to make them be able to be successful.
Well, hopefully it is having some impact,
Certainly,
however,
we believe it would, but
at some point maybe we could take a look at that. In terms of transportation, I understand we don't have transportation for everybody, or we do, or how does that work? I mean, I would imagine it would be a little bit of a nightmare to take care of these kids and send them all over the place on one bus.
Yes.
But I'm just curious how that works.
An extended day program, the paid-for program, there's no transportation provided for the kid. That's fully on the parents to get them to and from, or from really the school.
Right.
The schools that Dr. McDavid mentioned that do, for example, a 3-week or a 5-week or a 6-week program on intensive reading intervention, a lot of times in our Title I funding, we will pay for that transportation to take those kids home after that program is ended.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, they either walk or they're picked up. And
Correct.
I would imagine that would be pretty much universal for all after-school type programs, whether it's band or football or whatever.
Yes, yes. Most of it's parent pickup, and we do take advantage. Most of you know this, but we take advantage. I mean, a lot of our buses, the kids start arriving, and even the drop-off for cars start arriving at 7:15. So we really encourage our elementary schools to take advantage of that 7:15 to 8 o'clock. That's 45 minutes. That's another 45 minutes of the day. So we really encourage them to be intentional about those. When those kids are coming in at 7:15, 7:20, 7:30, use that time wisely while they're eating breakfast or after they're eating breakfast to do some intensive intervention with math or reading.
Okay, kind of switching gears here a little bit. In terms of the security for the after-school programs, do we have the same staffing in terms of SROs and all of that kind of thing going on for the programs, or is it?
Well, there's no, so for elementary schools, of course, there's no SROs in every elementary school. There's certainly, they make a presence and they drive by, and certainly that continues, and I see that many times in after-school programs as well, that they're present. But as far as the security, they're going over with the principal the same security measures and requirements that they would run during the day, as far as even fire drills and lockdown drill. All that would be the same, and that their director would be versed on. If that principal's not there, assistant principal, that director will be versed on, and the after-school staff.
Okay. Of course, if they're doing the drills during the day, they probably don't need to do them again in the afternoon. But I guess the concern I would have is, do we have any issues with security that we need to be concerned about? Okay.
No, and as Ms. Dean just said, we actually, while we're not required to, we do the drills. We still do the drills in the afternoon in the after-school programs, just because you have staff there that may not be there during the school day to know how that operations work. So while we're not required to, that is something we do require of the after-school programs.
All right.
Excuse me, Mr.
Sorry, I'm
Shanley,
sorry.
we are out of time. Do you need how many more minutes?
I have about 3 or 4 more questions, if
Okay,
that's all right.
Without objection, I'm going to extend for 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And this is one of the things that kind of has been on the front of my mind is the, K-3 reading experience. And I'm wondering if we have, because I noticed a lot of programs up there, I just haven't seen anything that says reading up there. Is that anything that we are not doing or should be doing or are doing?
Well, I would say the majority of the particularly in those morning programs, and again, the spreadsheet has some things that may not intentionally say reading on it, but the intervention a lot of times they're going to base it on the child's needs. So if Charlotte's walking in the door at 7:30 in the morning because she just got dropped off, we're going to look at her individual needs to figure out is she struggling in reading or is she struggling in math, and we're going to deliver that type of intervention to her specifically.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times you may just see a general intervention because we are going to pair that, we're going to tailor that to the child based on their needs.
Okay. I was going to ask in terms of what we pay our instructors and assistants and so forth. I know we have the comparison of the cost for the child and the private schools and so forth. Do we have any kind of comparison of what we're paying our teachers and assistants and so forth?
Compared to what they're making,
Compared to what the private programs pay?
We
Okay.
don't have that, but we can look at that.
Our comparison on that, I don't know if Ms. Gibbs is in here right now or not. Our comparison on that would be an internal comparison, i.e. an aide compared to an aide
yeah.
during the day. If it is a certified teacher, we use the pay rate for certified teacher that we have established for, because we have a number of certified teachers that do after-hours work, homebound, tutoring, after-school programs, so there's an established rate for that. And I think they also made the point earlier, excuse me, like all of our other schedules, whenever you all approve as a part of the budget a pay raise, we apply that rate of raise to all the schedules, and that would include this schedule.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Also, since, and I think I'm getting this right, not all of the teachers, assistants, whatever they are that are working here are even Greenville County School System employees, right? We may be contracting out and so forth. I would assume, but I just got...
They're all our employees, but they may only do this job.
Well, okay, and that's kind of what I'm
Yes,
getting.
sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do they go through the same kind of background check that anybody else would go through? I would imagine that was the case, but I needed to ask that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. And also, what is the staffing that's required to be in the class with these kids at any given time? I'm guessing it's got to be somebody who's at least at a director or teacher or some kind of level, but you wouldn't leave a class of 21 kindergartners in the hands, I think you may have mentioned that, with a high school student. So what are the requirements in terms of constant presence of an adult?
So we require that their kids obviously are supervised at all times. High school kids never to be supervised. It's never alone to be supervising kids. And then, as Ms. Dean mentioned, the class ratios, while we have guides for those class ratios at every level, certainly that is up to the principal's discretion. If they are hiring a teacher might be able to handle more kids in a classroom than maybe someone who's certified as an aide or a paraprofessional or whatever it happens to be. So those judgment calls rest with the principal as far as how many kids they may want to put in a class. And they do rotations. I mean, they do all kinds of creative things where a class may not even be. Can't always think of these as traditional classes of 23 kids or 20 kids. A lot of times, half the kids may be off doing some karate or something, while another half is getting homework help. So it varies from program to program,
Okay.
hour to hour.
In
But
general,
there's always an adult.
Always
an adult. I was going to say it should. I would imagine it pretty well mirrors the daytime program
Yes.
of who has to be in the classroom with the kids at any
Absolutely.
given time. I think that's everything I had. Yeah, I think that's everything I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of minutes, and I have just a couple of questions, if there's no one else. This has been very enlightening. Thank you for all the information. And I can't imagine a school not wanting to have this. And so that leads to my question about creating a program. How do we go about that, or do we do a survey of parents to see the incentive? How do we go about that?
When schools are thinking about establishing an extended day program, we ask that they first survey parents to see if there's a need. there's a desire. Also survey their staff to see if there's staff there, because we like when they first start a program that it is staffed somewhat from the teachers or assistants already in that building. Not that all have to be there, but we want some of them when we start a program. So those two things are done.
Right. And what about promotion of the programs that we already have? How do we go about that? I saw somewhere in here where you register 1 year for the next year.
Correct.
But is there also the availability that if a parent moved in, that you could start in the middle of the year in a program?
Only if there's available space,
Okay.
because when schools are staffing and they set that up, if they're going to need to expand, they do that the prior year and given the opportunity for staff to have training. There are some schools that will hold a waiting list. I'm aware at the beginning of this school year, there are schools that are at capacity, and if they added additional students, they would need to add additional staff. And so those numbers fill up quickly. We promote it in early spring. Registration forms and the deposit is due. I think I paid it in February, March. And I paid mine late in March, but I paid it to get them in, and that way we know how to staff. So they will give some, schools will give a little cushion, but the need, if it comes up, we hold a waiting list.
All right. Great, thank you. Well, I think
Question.
Mr. Sutton.
What about before school? I noticed we've got 15 schools. Do what we have before school?
So, yeah, we've got, again, on that spreadsheet, we've got several things going on before school just because the kids arrive earlier in the school, and particularly in elementary school. So, again, that's going to vary from school to school, but usually it's some type of intervention, or they may be on some sort of remediation program that the kids may participate on with their Chromebooks, depending upon their age. But yeah, we ask the schools to take full advantage of the fact that kids are arriving at 7:15, 7:30 in the morning and really use that time wisely.
We don't charge the parents.
No, that's part of the free service of dropping off your kids in the morning for school.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. McCoy, Ms. Dean, and Dr. McDavid. And I will turn it back over to Ms. Wells.
Thank you, Ms. Bush, for leading us through the instructional portion of the agenda. For the administration portion of the agenda, Ms. Glenda Morrison-Fair is going to lead that. So, Ms. Morrison-Fair, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Item 3.01, report on summer training. The presenter will be Karen Kapp, and Dr. Royster, would you like to say a few words before we start?
Just a few, Ms. Morrison-Fair, thank you. As I mentioned in the superintendent's report last month, when we talked about those things that we do over the summer to prepare for schools opening, I alluded to but did not specifically address training, because it is pervasive throughout our organization. It is quite extensive in its depth, in addition to the pervasiveness throughout all the work groups. So we're going to spend a little time this morning, and I've asked Ms. Kapp to share with you all those various trainings that occur during the summer throughout all of our employee work groups, so that they may be best prepared to start and carry out their responsibilities throughout the school year. Ms. Kapp? Did she somehow disappear? Okay. Perhaps we'll not learn about summer training, and we can just go into lunch.
Anybody got any jokes?
We can do that.
She was here earlier.
She literally was just here.
We
Okay, she's
we
coming.
can move to 3.02.
Oh, here she-
Oh, okay.
There she is.
Well, if I sat here too much longer and listened to you guys, I'd get nervous as a cat, so I had to go walk a little bit. All right, so good morning. How are you? Our excellent school district provides extensive opportunities to develop instructional, administrative, operational, and support personnel. We want for each employee a strong start, continuous growth, and avenues to develop leadership development, all of which lead to employee retention and quality results. Our summers are filled with opportunity to grow. Today I'm going to highlight key training aligned with district priorities, most of it provided through in-house expertise. In 966 sessions, nearly 1,700 participants earned 57,000 hours of credit this summer. Most of those hours supported recertification or readiness for job advancement. Our Summer Academy continues to provide rich learning opportunity for employees in all instructional, administrative, and support roles, and is a major hub for employee sharing of best practice with their colleagues. Summer Academy is 4 days of professional development presented by Greenville County Schools staff and community partners. This year's focus was on literacy strategy at the elementary and secondary levels, knowledge of students, knowledge and support of students, and use of technology to elevate learning. Over 1,900 attended this year's event, filling nearly 4,500 seats to earn over 14,000 hours of credit. And all morning long we had sound on this video. So let's see what we can do. Yep. It's on the laptop. Hold tight. I'll go back to it. Got it? And we still don't have it.
So this week, we can anticipate anywhere from 1,700 to 2,000 employees. This is a week-long professional development opportunity for educators. It's open district-wide.
If you will excuse us, those of you who were here with us early know that all of these parts worked.
They're getting a head start on everything, and it's tailored for them.
It's not it. Yeah, but I have to shut this one down first.
Get to pick what they want to come to. There might be an area of focus that their school is working on, or them particularly. So it's a time to get ahead of the game and to also feel prepared for this upcoming school year.
I think one of the most critical aspects of having it at this point in the year is that teachers have had a little bit of a break from school, so now they have a fresh mind and they're ready to receive and get excited about the upcoming school year. So I think the greatest thing is that they're having the time and the space to be able to actually learn new things, and they're in a place where they can really receive it.
In the book, it says to do a couple sets of compressions first and then call 911 if it's a child.
Then we start with compressions, CPR. Absolutely. Put your cell phone on speaker and call 911.
We are learning CPR, so I'm going to be a first responder at my school. So CPR for adults, for children, for infants. I didn't know it before, not to this extent at all. I feel much more comfortable going into the school year with this. Yeah, I think it's very important.
Shifts moods quickly does not mean you have bipolar disorder.
We are participating in an all-day session on first aid mental health. The philosophy behind it is we have first aid CPR for kids that have physical ailments, but nowadays we know our kids are coming to us with a lot more issues, especially in the mental health realm. We're not only learning about the different things that they're facing, but we're also learning how to develop action plans to how to best help their mental health needs in the school.
I think participants are going to take away tools that they could immediately implement for this next school year, whether they're in the office or they're in a classroom or they're helping support student learning. They're going to have something in their toolbox that's new or maybe just refined a little bit, ready to go to serve our students.
Good job. Good job.
Other highlights in Summer Academy included extensive opportunities for content and strategy enhancement in social studies and mathematics, as well as the arts. Our strategic plan makes priority the awareness and skill to support students to reach their potential. This summer saw a sharp increase in professional learning for social emotional development, whether in summer academy or intensive multi-day trainings for targeted teacher groups. Included were sessions on classroom management, environment, parent engagement, and restorative practices. All group home, middle school alternative program, and high school alternative program personnel trained in the trauma-informed schools model. In total, there were 66 sessions, nearly 1,300 participants, and almost 5,000 hours invested in classroom culture and emotional support. School teams use on-track tools and problem-solving processes to ensure that teachers know individual student strengths and needs and take action to ensure their success. We use GCS Source and the Early Warning Response System to track student progress, convening teams that analyze data and patterns to determine interventions in a cycle of ongoing awareness and support. 21 sessions this summer provided nearly 2,000 hours of training for almost 550 participants. The Upstate Technology Conference is an annual treat for educators from Greenville County and the Upstate. Our teachers learn and present with colleagues within and beyond our district. Trevor Muir, author of The Epic Classroom, inspired participants with dynamic but practical ways to engage students in learning. Session highlights are listed here. With over 900 attendees in 326 sessions, folks earned over 5,000 hours of credit. Our special education department sponsors multiple opportunities for special educators and general educators alike. Highlights of the summer include the Champion Behavior Institute for Teachers of Emotionally Disabled Students, provided in partnership with Clemson University and Greenville Mental Health. Our administrators learned more about supporting our reading programs, and nearly 700 gen ed and special ed teachers convened to look at last year's progress and align their focus forward in strategies to improve outcomes for our students. In all, 70 sessions served nearly 1,400 participants at almost 4,000 hours of learning. Our new Enrich IEP program training is nearly complete after over 39 sessions serving 450 participants. As we add a number of lab opportunities for learning in our elementary schools, the academic innovation staff developed curriculum and lesson supports and trained over 65 instructors to engage learners in inquiry-based learning. Whether in a STEAM lab, a digital literacy lab, or an innovation lab, our students are using the same science and engineering practices that will drive their science curriculum and learning through graduation. Extended day program directors and staff convened to improve their practices as well, and our instructional technology department served 200 in early summer learning of technology tools. You know that our backpack system is up and running and was introduced to over 100 before teachers even returned to school. In addition to professional learning provided by the district, the faculties of many schools extend their learning on site and collaborate to prepare for student return. You can see in the highlights here the aligned efforts in 476 sessions where nearly 1,200 participants earned almost 6,400 hours of credit. At 22 teachers and 3 content areas, our 4th cohort of GATE teachers is the largest yet. Each teacher participates in a rigorous 15-day institute, preparing them for a strong start in the classroom. Preparation includes managing the classroom, instructional planning and delivery, and of course, first-year success. All GATE teachers are supported through an external coach and an on-site support team. This year's general fund budget approved a minimum teacher salary of $40,000, providing pay on 4 additional professional development days. Our own Corey Ramey gave practical advice for the first year of teaching, and Michael Bonner inspired all to build relationships to engage students for success, no matter the challenges they face. Teachers have started their year prepared and ready to implement priority strategies. Over 280 first-year teachers at 4 days and 177 second-year teachers participated in 2 days of this institute. Just before the arrival of students, with all staff back to work on a single day, the district provides professional development to ensure that all are up to date and prepared for a successful year. Our arts collaboration features sessions for every visual and performing arts curriculum. Career and technology education teachers convene for updates and planning, and all special educators gather to make connections as they begin their year. In 36 sessions that day, nearly 1,700 participants earned over 5,000 hours of credit. Our operational and support offices provide quality service so that schools and offices can serve students at an optimal level. Training in each of our non-instructional departments ensures a high standard of work and supports the development of employee skill and leadership capacity. In our building services and maintenance department, the custodial college trained over 600 employees in 3,300 man-hours. They learned or refined best practices in all work areas, and plant engineers were all trained to refurbish gym floors. In transportation, you know that we trained or licensed 13 drivers and 7 aides. In 4 days, near the end of the summer, over 550 transportation employees learned critical safety and prevention skills. Everyone was trained as well in special needs procedures. Our Food and Nutrition Services Department implemented food safety training for 120 employees. 190 managers and assistant managers sharpened their skills, and 96 participated in a culinary skills workshop. The Finance and Human Resources Departments trained all new principals this summer. Finance held multiple sessions to support required processes and trained high school athletic directors and their bookkeepers. Secretaries are increasing efficiency using Google applications, and over 76 new-to-role clerical employees are attending customer service training. Human Resources held orientation sessions, 41 of them, for new employees, and there were nearly 900 participants in required substitute training this summer. In a continuing partnership with Greenville Technical College, we provide leadership skills for non-instructional leaders, those who supervise employees, and are preparing them to assume increasing responsibilities in leadership and management. 13 completed the supervisory certificate last year, 17 are expected by the end of this year, and 11 next-level managers, next-level leaders, will complete the Leadership and Management Certificate Series this year. You'll see at the bottom that we have participants, leaders from most of our operational departments represented thus far in that partnership with Greenville Technical College. Several summer sessions focused on leadership interest and capacity for both teachers and current administrators. Teachers learn to support new teachers and to develop their own coaching and team leadership skills, while administrators extended their capacity for instructional leadership. Participants selected for our leadership academies, API, ILA, or LEAD, also began their work in opening summer sessions, and there were 60 participants in our Leader Training Institute for athletic coaches. Just launched this summer, the Greenville County Schools Principal Induction Program is designed to meet all requirements of state regulation while minimizing duplication and unnecessary time away from school. Its primary purpose is to build operational and instructional leadership capacity among first-year principals. This program blends state content into the training that Greenville County Schools already required of our new principals and provides the remaining induction content in 4 day-long learning sessions. Our program replaces 8 days in Columbia, cuts total training time by 4 days, and further reduces time away from students. Both first-year principals and those new to our district are benefiting from this program. All induction principals receive personalized support through assessment and goal setting, a skilled principal mentor, and one-on-one support from their principal supervisor. Content of the principal induction program is aligned to the South Carolina Principal Evaluation Model and the Greenville County Schools priorities for instructional leaders. Content focuses on the 6 strands and those 6 major areas in those priorities for effective instructional leadership. In our first session, principals developed their 100-day entry plan to support relationships and a student-centered culture through intentional communication and action to ensure first-year success. We continue our focus on leadership and communication that aligns action to district priorities. In this year's Superintendent's Leadership Summit, 150 principals and district leaders developed commitments to ensure that we meet our goals for Graduation Plus. We know it will take conscious leadership, that intent plus action with communication is what will equal impact, that all means all, that resources reflect our priorities, and that we must ensure connected communities of support. We must act in one vision, in one voice for every student. Our summer efforts to develop and retain exemplary personnel are robust and aligned to our system's priorities. We are building capacity and commitment, aligning our message and our actions to meet our vision so that every student is inspired, supported, and prepared.
Thank you so very much. Do we have any, I have one person with a question. Mrs. Goodwin Caldwell.
My turn.
Your turn.
I have a question on the Induction Institute.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the where is classroom management in there? Is that part of the literacy environment, or where is it? Where does that fall?
It falls in a whole lot of places. Do you want to know specifically in the principal induction program?
Yeah, how it's taught
Okay.
to the induction teachers.
Okay, so induction teachers, let me go back a little bit. When we talk about early career teachers and the Induction Institute, okay, during the 4 days that they are together in that institute, they spend a significant amount of time talking about classroom management, classroom culture, building relationships with students, and how to work with that student who may be a little atypical. They hear from practitioners here in our school district, classroom teachers, and instructional coaches about how to develop sound classroom management strategies. So that is part of what they do across those 4 days that they are in the Induction Institute.
Okay. And I also see that we have collaboration with Greenville Tech, where
Yes.
they teach some of the things. Do any of these certifications attached to any money, any increase in salary for people that get those certifications?
When we think about the non-instructional leadership development opportunities, there are 2 separate programs that we support, and actually we have some folks in Six Sigma as well right now. But they are actually for folks who are supervisors or soon to be supervisors of our non-instructional employees. It might be a fans person or a maintenance person, and we are not only standardizing a level of service and skill among those supervisors or managers, but we are also preparing them for possible advancement. The supervisory certificate series, you'll note the things that they are taught there. There is not a direct, you finish this and there's some raise in your pay, but we are, of course, are solidifying your skills as a supervisor or manager and making it possible that you might be able to advance further. This leadership and management certificate is for what we call next level supervisors. We have told some of our department heads that when they look on their staff for folks who ought to be enrolling in that leadership and management series, they ought to be thinking about the folks who might succeed them in their roles in future years. So we are both building a standard of practice for the supervision of personnel at the same time that we're advancing skill and potential for promotion. But there is not a bonus or some kind of change in your pay tied to
No
just
money or
finishing
comp
that.
time or anything
Say
for,
it again,
no money or comp time or anything for them going
Well,
to
they actually
doing this?
They attend both of these series or during the workday, and so they are on district business leave or professional leave to attend these. So they are being paid their full salary while
So
they're
they go
engaged
to
in this
Greenville
training.
Tech during the daytime, while they are at work?
This
Okay.
is during the usual, the
Okay.
normal workday.
Okay, so nothing after hours where they could
Not
receive
unless
comp
there's
time or,
homework like we always do.
okay. Okay, that was it. Linda, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Wells?
Thank you. Wow, you guys stay busy over the summer.
It's a very busy summer.
Yeah, so I'm appreciative, as I'm sure we all are, of the work and time you put into providing this training. And I know the teachers that I've gotten feedback from, it re-energizes them to really have somebody kind of pour back into them and give them tools that they need to do better and better every day. I'm really interested in the principal induction program. So this is something where we've taken what we've had to get from the state in the past and paired it together with what we want to do to build our principals and their expertise and their role together to create this program that we got approved?
Almost. We took what we were already doing, which was above and beyond what the state does, and we applied to the state for approval to fold into that a few other things. And by doing so, we've now exempted our principals from also having to go to the state in Columbia for 8 days. Some of what they were doing was a little bit redundant with what we did. We thought the quality of what we had was very, very good, as it is in all these programs. It was really a matter of adding just a few things to it to be able to replace this additional requirement. Because the feedback we got over time from our first-year principals was the benefit that they received from going to Columbia was very minimal compared to what they were getting here. And it was just more time out of the building, which is extremely challenging for any principal, but particularly for a first-year principal. Then every year we tweak what we do with all of these to strengthen and enhance it. One of the things we do, we sit down periodically during the year, but certainly at the middle and at the end of the year, I do it with first-year principals and get feedback from them. What would have been more helpful for you to have known about during the year? Were there things that we didn't cover? So every year we make some level of change to our principal induction program based on feedback from the participants, which varies a little. When we talk about principal induction, we're inducting both the principals new to the district, which looks a little different, and principals new to being a principal. So we have our groups together, though they do different things based on their background and knowledge with them. But this was really a way to do this much more efficiently, and we believe produce an even better outcome than what we were getting before.
And the staff that's involved in that training, we didn't have to add staff. All we did was make adjustments in the way we're delivering our training, our professional development.
Actually, pretty minor adjustments. No, we're using the same people. It's basically it's people sitting in this room. If you're involved in that, stand up. If you're involved in training principal inductions, if you just stand up. Now, I think Robin already left, but Robin would also be standing up if she were still in the room. So you can see the breadth and depth of the kind of training they get, and I am involved in that to a degree as well. Thank you all.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that we recognize, again, we can deliver things better locally than when we tailored it to our district, our community, than we can sending our folks somewhere else. And to your point about being off campus. And I have to say specifically, the feedback, the one about balancing, work-life balance and permission to disconnect for family time, I'm appreciative too that we recognize that our principals in particular give up a lot of their own family time, their freedom, their own 24/7. So I appreciate the way the district's supporting them and giving them the right attitude to start that. So I think that's exceptional in all this work. I appreciate what you guys have done. Thank you. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Just one question, because I'm just amazed at the amount of training that goes on, particularly during the summer. And if you go to the technology conference or even the summer academy, I mean, just the number of teachers who are there and are excited about learning is just really incredible. But I never fully understand which ones they're required to be at and which ones they're getting compensated for being at. So just for the three, just for the technology conference and the induction institute and the summer academy, can we just talk for a second about of those, like which ones are teachers required to attend, and then how are they compensated for their time? Are they? I know it's different for each one, but just for those three, if you don't mind, just maybe providing a little bit more information.
So first, you probably should know that every teacher, let's talk teachers a moment, that every teacher must earn 120 hours or credits to recertify within a 5-year period. And so they do that primarily on off-contract time, but they're, in order to do a credit for recertification, you can do it on contract or off-contract time. We also have exchange days, but those are points. They could be the same points, but not duplicated, that you earn off-contract time. So knowing that everyone has to have 120, Summer Academy in part originated to have district priorities at the top of what happens in professional development, but also to give folks an opportunity to do that for free rather than paying for higher ed courses and such. So Upstate Technology Conference, Summer Academy, virtually everything we do in the summer that is not a required training is at no financial compensation to the attendee, okay? If someone is required to attend something, and I would say to you that GATE, for the first time this summer, is a perfect example. All GATE teachers must attend 15 days of training. Because that program has become established, more robust, this summer for the first time we were able to actually compensate those teachers for that required training at the rate of what we call sub-pay, or $18 an hour, for those 15 days that they were with us. There are some times where a cadre of folks are required to have a particular something that maybe is coming through a grant fund, and there might be some compensation. But usually you're looking at recertification credit or exchange day points, and they can choose which one they want. But generally not compensated for attending.
So generally, that, like for this one here, the technology conference, so teachers, if they're attending this, probably aren't required to be there, but they're getting credit hours. So either they're getting credits or they're earning an exchange day that they can swap out for some other day during the year. And the same is probably true about most of the teachers at the Summer Academy. I know there's some programs that are offered there that are required, but for the most part, you're either doing one or the other.
Yes.
And then for the, what do we call it, the induction, that's the thing that we just added, because we added days to their year for first and second year teachers. So we're those days they're actually being fully compensated because we've built into their pay extra days. Is that correct?
Yes, Induction Institute, they are coming to work, they are starting work 4 additional days early.
Okay.
And so those were paid at their daily rate.
And the other days that are, I'm sorry.
That insured the 40,000.
The other days that were examples of like professional development most likely are happening during those PD days when they're actually in work.
Yes.
That they are being compensated because they've already started work. Okay, great, thanks.
Yes.
Is that it, Mr. Lewis? Okay. Mr. Southern?
Karen, credit hours, can you go to take a summer course at a college and earn 3 credit hours, or what is it? I've forgotten that.
Yes. Beyond what you see that the district has anything to do with presenting, okay? Multiple teachers every summer and throughout their school year are engaged in graduate credit, engaged in some course that they need to complete certification. There are folks all over this district attending and participating in training or college credit, higher ed credit, far beyond what we do. These are the things that we have access and data for and that we know definitively we can speak to. But individual teachers, among the 5,000 or so that we employ, are engaged in lots of training.
If I've got to have so many hours every 5 years.
Yes.
Also, if I want to be put in a different salary bracket, I got to have a degree from a BA to a master's degree, education specialist, etc.
That's right.
So the hours that we have in all these things are really just training hours. They're really not geared to any kind of credit, because we got certain personnel who don't need these things, such as our custodians and people in our schools that are at the cafeteria, etc.
Generally, that's true. There are a couple of things that are captured in this report. A master teacher, for example, we talked about what they do, but they are actually earning some graduate credit through Clemson University that may or may not assist them to move beyond a bachelor's plus 18 to a master's degree. But the sum of this report is truly training hours that are used either for recertification credit or for exchange day credit for those couple of days during the school year that if they've earned outside contract credit, they can actually take a day off.
In the summer, the people who teach these courses, a lot of them are our district personnel.
That's correct.
Do we have teachers that go and teach?
We do.
Do we pay them for that?
Yes, we do. Many of our teachers are our instructors, both at Upstate Technology Conference and at Summer Academy, and we do pay them a stipend for their work. We pay them by the hour for their delivery. Yes.
Do our teachers who do it under our teachers, do they get credit for their certification, recertification? I know they do it through the college, but
if an instructor is paid to teach a session, they cannot also claim hours toward recertification. You get paid one in some form if you're the instructor. If an instructor wasn't being paid, they actually can earn 1.5 hours for every hour that they teach, because of course there's planning time and so on. But when they are paid for that teaching, they do not also earn the points toward recertification.
But the people that they're teaching, they can earn them.
Yes, they can. The people that are being taught.
By that teacher.
By that teacher.
We're giving the teacher a stipend, and we're also giving the people that are in that class or course hours toward their recertification.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, I do not have any other speakers on this topic, and so that brings to a close Section 3.01, the report on summer trainings. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Cap, for that report.
Thank you.
We will now move to Section 3.02, Champion for Public Education Award nomination, First Presbyterian Church. Mrs. Linda Leventis Wells was the presenter. Do Dr. Royster or Mrs. Wells?
Yes. Mrs. Wells is going to present.
Okay.
Yeah, so since Linda is absent, I think Mr. Sailors was going to talk about this a little bit, but he had an appointment that he's not quite here either. So Ms. Leventis Wells presented this nomination for First Presbyterian Church because of the extensive partnership they have with Hollis Academy over the last 10 years and the way that they've partnered. And you guys probably had a chance, hopefully, to look at the nomination. Just as a reminder, the Champions for Public Education program is something sponsored by South Carolina School Boards Association. And the purpose is so that they can recognize community residents, organizations, or local businesses whose support of and contributions to public education have significantly benefited the entire school district or public schools statewide. And certainly, as you read the application, the nomination, it's evident that First Presbyterian Church has done that. So I would like to make the motion on Ms. Leventis Wells' behalf, and Roger's not here to tell me I can't say it that way, to approve the nomination of First Presbyterian Church for the SCSBA's Champions for Public Education Award.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Southern.
Mr. Webb, since we have a church doing this, are we going to be sued by court because of local religion?
Mr. South, I can't guarantee we will not be sued about anything, but I am confident that this does not violate the First Amendment of the Constitution.
I noticed they provide a Christmas store, so we can use Christmas again.
Mr. South, we respect all holidays, including Christmas, and I believe what I have read with regard to this nomination is consistent with neutrality for the First Amendment.
Very well spoken, Mr. Webb. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Southern, we really appreciate that insight, and we always like to side on the side of caution. Thank you, Mr. Wells. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion is carried, and I will turn it back over to the, I guess, moderator, since Ms. Wells.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So we're going to move on to Section 4 of our agenda, which is building and grounds, and I'll cover that portion for Ms. Leventis Wells today. Item 4.01 is a facilities project report. Were you, Mr. Lewis, did you want to cover that? Okay. All right, we'll just plow on forward. So at this time, do we have a presentation, Mr. Royster, on the facilities project?
We do not have a presentation, but Mr. Carlin is here and certainly prepared to answer any questions you might have based on the summary report in your board docs.
Okay, are there any questions on facilities for Mr. Carlin today? Mr. Lewis.
Just one question about timeline for Fountain Inn High School. So I know we're in the middle of looking at proposed rezoning, which is a separate issue, but will there be another opportunity for the board to approve the final design of Fountain Inn High School, or that has now done and we are now...
Sure, it's done, the contract's let, and they're grading the property.
So there won't be any other board action around the construction of Fountain Inn High School unless there's a budget issue that...
Unless we were to run into some substantial, unpredicted difficulty, that is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions? Mr. Sutter.
Yes. I'm looking at the security enhancements.
Yes, sir.
They should have already been completed, right?
Yes, sir, they actually have been.
Explain for me transaction windows, secure entry renovations, and security gates.
So the transaction windows, Mr. Sutter, have you been in any of the?
Yes, I have.
So have you seen where it's got the silver, silver-looking aluminum grating in front of the reception desk? Has pieces of glass at certain locations, but not in all locations. And the intent there was to give it kind of still a customer service feel, but also create a semi-private to private area between customers and the receptionist.
So we've done all that for these transactions. The punch work means.
The punch list.
It says in each one of these the status as punch work.
Yes, sir. All the entrances are operational, but there's some cleanup issues that are still going on to make them 100% complete.
Okay, and these secure entry renovations, are these the doors leading into the building?
That's correct.
What are we doing with the doors? Are we replacing doors, or how are we making the entry renovations more?
So in many cases, I think a good example might be Malden High School. So we had, part of the project was to allow that safe entry into the main office where we have the circulation area and the window that I was talking about. But that also required us subsequently to add new doors to allow for the safe egress out of the adjacent area to where the transaction windows had taken place.
All these things are, in each one of these, is to prevent someone from entering from outside.
In both, actually. Helps somebody, prevents somebody from coming in the outside, but allows for the free access to get outside in the event of an emergency.
We still have no solution to someone who wants to open a door for someone to come in.
That's correct, unless that door has some type of alarming device on it.
We don't have alarming devices on the door, do we?
There are very few of those in the district, and they are typically in places where we've had frequent incidents.
Okay, so we're good on our transaction windows. Our entry renovation, we're in progress of doing that. What about the gates?
Those should be complete at all but Bryson Middle School by the 15th of this month. So they're very near completion, and then the Bryson Middle School project is much more substantial, but I think you may be seeing an input on that fairly soon from the administration.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the bond. What gate is that?
The one at Bryson?
No, at Bond.
At Bond, so at the rear of the facility, near where automotive is. Are you familiar with where automotive is?
Yes, sir.
So you have a new set of gates right there that have a key code on the outside that allows access, and also egress from that area. But it's a brand new set of gates adjacent to the building where automotive is.
These are gates that we lock each night?
They stay locked all the time. It does have a keypad that allows somebody authorized to enter that area, but otherwise nobody can get in and anybody can get out who's inside that area from an egress standpoint.
I've got the last two entrances. The first entrance there is the out gate. The second entrance on down toward the field is the in gate. So those gates don't have padlocks on them, but they have a keyless entry system.
The gate that I was talking about next to the automotive is the only one I'm familiar with. I may need to look into any other gates that are on that campus that you may have a question on.
Well, there's three gates. The first gate, the first driveway does not have a gate.
Are you talking about a gate at the road?
I'm talking about the gate at the loop.
Okay.
Or what was outside beside the auditorium and it leads into the cafeteria. Now, there's a gate down there at the bottom of it.
None of these are drive gates. The gates that are listed here, and particularly the one at Bonds, they're gates in fences that keep people from getting up into the campus area. Think about Harley Bonds at the back. You have the wing coming down, as you talked about where the cafeteria is, where the office is. Down the other side, you have the high bay shop areas. There's a fence that runs between the two buildings. And in that fence, there is now a double gate with panic hardware on it, i.e. like a door, that serves to be able to allow people to exit in the event of an emergency, but only to enter into that courtyard if they have a key or the code to the gate. So these are not driveway gates. These are personnel gates. Very similar to, if you think about your visits over to Fisher, how that courtyard is fenced off, and there are gates in the back that allow people to get out if they have to get out, but not to get in without authorization to get in. That's the gates that we're talking about here.
How many schools do we have that are fenced in?
I don't know. We'd have to give that to you. There are very few. 30, 40 years ago, the district fenced in all schools.
Right.
And then made the decision that because of the appearance that that gave and the environment that that created, the way it felt the students and occupants of the building, they discontinued the practice of fencing in. So we now use fencing just strategically to ensure that, for example, in a lockout or a lockdown, we can keep people from getting right up next to the building. We have very little, we don't have much perimeter fencing around the entire campus.
Yeah, we just don't have, I'm looking at the front, the entry into our schools. We don't have gates that prevent someone from coming in, do we?
No, sir. Now, in a lot of schools, there are gates that prevent access by vehicles, particularly during certain times of day. Whereas they may close off a parking lot during the day and only open it when it's time for people to leave or come into the parking lot. So there are swing arm gates at a number of schools. Too numerous for me to even reel off for you, but probably almost every high school there's some number of swing arm gates because of student parking areas, and in other schools as well.
Do we have any rules for when those gates are locked?
That would vary from school to school, depending on the individual schedule of that school.
I was wondering if any of them lock the gate during the day.
Yes, sir.
And should there be an emergency, like for the fire to come out and a fire truck try to come, and the gate's locked?
Out, they have a universal gate open.
They do.
They cut the lock. But they
Literally.
For that purpose. They'll just pop the lock and go right on in.
Okay. Do we have locks that are similar for all these gates?
Yes, sir.
We used to have them.
A district standard padlock.
Okay. Have we changed that padlock in the last 15 years?
Not in the last 15, no, sir.
Okay, so mine's still good.
Probably.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Bush.
A question, are we still on schedule with the roofing at Northwest Middle School? It says it was to be completed in October, but...
Yes, ma'am. I'm not aware of any delays that we're ready to publish at this point.
Okay, because there's still a lot
There's a lot.
roofing material out
And
there.
I will tell you, I'm not totally comfortable on any of these roofing projects right now, based on what you see from the street. But we've accelerated with some of the contractors. They're bringing in more crews. At this point, these are the schedules I'm still prepared to publish.
And it's not the roofing part that concerns me at Northwest. They're just so limited for parking up there.
Yes, ma'am.
And with school back in now, and I know they have a huge Veterans Day program in November, but even for PTA programs and and things like that where parents come to at night, there's barely enough parking there for teachers, and they've taken up 2 whole rows of, and I've watched it over the summer, and I'm like, well, maybe they'll get back to 1 row, and
That is a good point, and we have revisited, particularly at, say, Malden High School, and we've tightened the areas that we're allowing them to operate.
Yes. That might be
I'll
an
tell you what,
option.
I will look into seeing if we still need those 2 rows at
Thank you,
this point.
because what parents have learned to do over the years, because they're just essentially is like mini schools. When all the parents show up, and that's what we want for a school program, they've learned to, they'll either park down that little side road or they'll park across the street at the elementary school and walk over.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I know the first function that I go to, that's after hours up there, there's going to be a question about, we don't have enough parking. When is the roof going to get finished? So right now, my story is October, and we're sticking to it until I hear otherwise.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I can trust you, my staff is getting sick and tired of me asking questions on when.
All right.
On all these roofing projects. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Is that it, Ms. Bush?
That's it.
Mr. Suddeth?
Where can I find the blueprints for the gym weight room at Greer High?
We can provide that to you, sir.
Okay, well, we're looking at
Just the floor plan, is that what you mean?
yes, sir, I'm just trying to get an idea in my mind about what all we're doing, because we're also looking at changing the parking.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so I wonder if I could find a blueprint that would show me exactly what we're looking at. And,
Sure.
And also, these full roofing replacements, how long have these roofs been there in these schools? Are we finding that we're replacing them when they need to be replaced? I don't know when we did Ralph Chandler, Northwest, or any of these, when we renovated, or if we did a new school.
Well, I can tell you, we replace roofs based on the type of roof, and those do have life expectancy. Depending on the type of roof, it can be anywhere between 15 and 25 years, typically. But yes, all these are being replaced due to age and scheduled replacement.
How long will they last? Generally speaking.
We have different types of roof going on at each of these. Some are what they call a modified bitumen roofing system. Some of them are a single-ply roofing system, and they have different ages on them. But a good rule of thumb with roofs is about 20 years. That's when we look at replacements.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I've got a couple then myself. Oh, I got 1 minute. I should be able to hit it in there. Can we get PDF plans of both Fountain Inn and Roper Mountain Science Center, since they've both been bid and we know kind of that's what the plan sets? Just PDFs of the plan sets.
Yes, ma'am. Now you mean the entire set or just the site plan, floor plan?
I'd say the CSA, the Civil Structural Architectural pieces. And that'll include the athletic. That'll be the whole site, so we will be able to see what we have included for the stadium and all that kind of stuff as well, right?
Yes. Now the stadium is not all of that is complete for Fountain Inn High School. So we do have some drawings on the athletics, but that portion.
But the bleachers and the layout and all that.
There's an overall layout.
There is.
Yes.
Okay. And then the only other things, Woodmont High bus loop. There's been a lot of work that's happened out there where they cut down a bunch of trees and put in some pavement to try to accommodate all the students that are having to wait out there. In need of some shade for sure, but when I was out there, the other concern I had is they put in some benches to create a little bit of barrier, I think, between the bus loop and the pickup line. But those benches are not they're placed such that I wouldn't want students sitting or gathering around the benches, because they're literally only like a foot off the curb, the face of the curb facing the pickup loop.
Okay.
So I think somebody should look at that and just give a little more thought to whether or not it's really as safe as we need it to be. And if you have to make changes, give a little more aesthetic consideration
Okay, we'll look
to
at
what we
that.
have out there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, I think that, as long as no one else has anything, okay, I need to extend for, how many, what you got, Mr. South? Is it long?
I just need to know from Dr. Royster when we're going to have the student assignment brought before the board.
Oh, okay.
October Committee of the Whole.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to the end of our agenda for the Committee of the Whole. We do have a...